Hi, this is Robert DeMallie with the Torrington Democratic Town Committee. Our guest today for the podcast is Paul Honig. He is running for state senate in the 8th district. Welcome, Paul.
Hey, Bob. Good to see you.
Same here. Hey, Paul, people who do know you already are familiar with the fact that you're knocking on a lot of doors and that you're doing that by riding your bike around the district, which is a lot of riding. I understand that you've actually knocked on approximately 5,000 doors so far. Tell us a little bit about that initiative.
Well, I think it's really important for someone who's going to represent a district in the state senate to really kind of know his constituents. And for me, the best way to do that is to actually get out and talk to people. So I try to get out there every day, weather permitting, and I could be out there like knocking 50 doors, could be up to 130 doors, depends on how far the houses are apart, what time I'm able to get out of the house, how talkative people are. But I think it's really important to get out and talk to voters and really understand what are their daily challenges, what are the issues that are important to them, what their positions are on various issues. And, my goal is that if I do get elected to the state senate, when I'm in the Senate chamber voting on policy, I'll have all these conversations in my mind, really understanding the people that I'm representing. But I think there's another aspect to it as well. I think we're living in a time where there's a lot of mistrust of government. And, sometimes I hear people say, oh, politicians, they're all in it for themselves. They're all a bunch of crooks. And so I think like getting out and talking to people is important for them to get to know me also, to see that I'm a, rational person, that I'm kind of middle of the road, and I'm interested in solving problems and coming up with practical solutions that will actually help people. So, I think the door knocking actually accomplishes two things. I get to know the district, and the district gets to know me.
A question relating to that, what are you learning from the constituents? What are some of the things on their minds?
There are quite a wide variety of things that I'm hearing from people. One of the things that I hear really frequently is just the cost of living today. Connecticut's been a pretty expensive place to live for quite a while, but the inflation of the last couple of years has really made things worse, and for some people made things very difficult, whether it's the cost of groceries or property taxes or the cost of gas. So quite a few people are having a tough time making ends meet. For me, some of the big ticket items, as far as the cost of living, are the cost of healthcare, the cost of housing, the cost of electricity. And I would love to go to Hartford and try to work on these issues and make things better for people.
You've referred to yourself as a pragmatic Democratic. Sounds similar to what you're saying here now. With respect to the economy, what do you think you could do in Hartford to improve the lot of the folks you represent? Let's just take an example, housing, which has been a topic of great interest lately.
Sure. Housing is just really expensive in Connecticut. And I think a lot of that is a function of the marketplace, supply and demand. There's too much demand for housing and not enough supply. And I think we need to build more housing. We need to find ways to incentivize municipalities to build more. We need to get the state involved in providing incentives, providing grants, especially when the housing is kind of close to transit, so that there can be, people can, have a way to get to their jobs that doesn't involve a car. I know in Torrington in particular, there's a lot of older multifamily housing that's in disrepair. We should find ways to incentivize people to repair these properties. I know my colleague Justin Potter um, has proposed trying to take what the state of Vermont has done and provide grants to people who are either renovating existing buildings that are in disrepair so that they can be rented out, and the state can provide grants in exchange for a medium-term affordability waiver. The same program provides grants to people who are building ADUs, accessory dwelling units, either in their homes or next to their homes for additional rental income. These ideas seem like great ideas to me, and I think it's something that we should look at very closely at the General Assembly level.
Now, you also have a financial background, so I'm curious to know what you think of what the current Connecticut administration has done to work on the deficit and some other financial issues as well.
Sure. My background is in fixed income finance. I spent 22 years working in that field. The first 12 years writing software for bond traders and salesmen to help them analyze the relative value of various fixed income products. And then I spent 10 years working on an interest rate trading desk. I ended up with the title of managing director at JP Morgan. The state of Connecticut has issues with unfunded pension liabilities. That's our main problem. And it's a result of, for 80 years, the state promising pension benefits to people and then not setting aside money to pay for them. Kind of the pay-as-you-go model. And, that works for a while, but when you get more and more retirees, it starts really putting strains on budgets. So in 2010-ish, the state really made a concerted effort to try to do something about these unfunded pension liabilities. And, I think in the last 5 or 6 years, the state's made enormous progress. In 2016, I think our pensions were funded at about 35%. I think that percentage is up to about 55% now. So really a great step in the right direction. What the Lamont administration did a few years ago was they refinanced the payments to the unfunded pension liabilities. And they set up a schedule that takes place over about 25 years now. And currently the payments in that schedule are about $3.1 billion. Those grow over the next few years to $3.4 billion, and then they remain there for the remainder of the 25-year term. So that schedule is both stable and affordable, and we need to make sure that we're sticking to that schedule, and at the end of 25 years, we'll have fully funded pensions. It's somewhat infuriating that we're spending $3.4 billion a year for services that were essentially delivered 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. It's $3.4 billion a year in payments that we actually get nothing for. And you can just imagine like how great it would be if we didn't have to make those payments. We could have a gigantic tax cut. We could fund early child care. We could increase the Medicaid reimbursement rates. We could provide more services to people with autism and intellectual disabilities. Just the list goes on and on and on. But that is something that we do have to deal with, and the state's made enormous progress, like I said, in the last several years. And we're moving in the right direction. We just got to stick to it.
Right. Hey, you had mentioned also that some of the things you'd like to see happen in Connecticut if you are able to make it happen and assist with the process. One of which was to make it so young people, you have two sons that would want to live in Connecticut and could live in Connecticut. Could you address that and other things you'd like to see change
Um,
for the better?
sure. Yeah, I have two boys, and a 21-year-old and a 25-year-old. Great kids. Very proud of them. Uh, and it's it would be wonderful if there was housing available
Mm.
that they could kind of afford on their own when they kind of enter the workforce. Um, and it's not just my kids. Like I actually had a really nice conversation. It was a bit of a poignant conversation with a 25-year-old woman a couple of days ago when I was outdoor knocking, who was telling me how she had like a decent paying job, and she just didn't see herself being able to get out of her parents' house anytime soon because it's just so expensive around here. So I think that the housing that we spoke about before is going to be really important to allowing young people to build lives in Connecticut. It's also, housing is really important for the business community. Like, companies are not going to come to Connecticut um, and employ lots of people if they don't think that their employees can find housing that's affordable. So, I think housing is a huge issue. Um,
Well, are you also on the subject of employment or attracting new employees and having the appropriate employee base? You had also mentioned something about training, and my question, I guess, is: do you feel that we have a good workforce today to address the need, which I think is on the order of 90,000 job openings right now? And if so, how so? And if not, what needs to be done?
Yeah, I think we do have 90,000 job openings, and we have to continue putting resources into training people to fill those jobs. I think that's an ongoing process. I think the state's made some progress with that, but we need to continue on that front. There's also, I've been reading about disillusioned youth who are just disconnected from society, and there's like 100,000 of them. Young
Wow.
people, 18 to 25 years old, um,
In the state of Connecticut?
in the state of
Wow.
Connecticut. Yeah,
Okay.
and we need to have programs which get those kids um, back involved so that they can get out there and work and earn a living, and live on their own. So I think there is quite a bit that the state needs to do on that front, and we should, we're doing some of it now, and we should continue doing it and try to improve it.
So, Paul, I'd like to also ask you a couple of more questions about the bigger issues, some of which are national, including pro-choice questions. Are you pro-choice? And if so, how do you stand on the issue?
I am pro-choice. I always have been, and I always will be. And that is a clear difference between myself and my opponent. Senator Seminara has publicly stated that she's pro-life, always has been, and always will be. And I support a woman's right to choose. In Connecticut, we're fortunate to live in a state where that right has been, uh, basically Roe versus Wade has been codified into law. So that is the law of the land here in Connecticut. But it's just a law. And, if there was a pro-life majority to, gain control of the legislature, that law could easily be revoked, repealed. So, and the legislature, is up for reelection every 2 years. The entire General Assembly, the whole Senate, the whole House of Representatives. So, people think that abortion rights are safe here in Connecticut, and I would say they are, as long as we continue to elect a Democratic General Assembly. If not, then I don't think the rights are safe.
What other ways do you differ from this seminar on the
Um,
issues?
yeah, there are a bunch of issues that I differ um, from the senator. Um, I think just overarchingly, I consider myself a moderate Democrat, and I think Senator Seminara is a extremely conservative Republican. CPAC, which is a conservative organization, has a scorecard for legislators. And in the Connecticut Senate, there was only one senator who had a more conservative voting record than Senator Seminara. And I don't think that's a great match for a district that's really a 50-50 district. But some specific things that I differ from Senator Seminara are on road safety. This is one of the issues that I hear all the time when I'm knocking on doors. People are genuinely worried when they get in their cars and get on the roads. I think that worry it's a well-founded worry. If you look at the actual statistics for the towns in this district, in the 3 years from 2021 to 2023, there were 2 homicides in the 11 towns of this district, and there were 30 traffic fatalities. So we do have a real road safety problem here. And there was legislation that was passed a year or so ago in the General Assembly to take the recommendations of the Vision Zero Council, and that's a task force whose goal is to reduce traffic deaths all the way to 0. And part of those recommendations were to have automated traffic enforcement of red lights and speeding. And those are, 2 problems that people see day in and day out. People going through red lights, people driving too fast. And that legislation passed in a bipartisan manner, and Senator Seminara was one of the few people to vote against it. That's legislation that I would support because, I think it's something that's practical and will improve people's lives. I think a big problem with our the driving behavior of people today is that they just don't expect to get a ticket, get anything enforced. So I think adding enforcement to our existing laws would be very helpful. And I know that there were privacy issues that people had concern about, but the General Assembly, I think, did a really good job of addressing those issues, limiting the way that this information could be used and limiting the amount of time it was stored and who has access to it. So, all in all, I think it was a very good bill, and the senator voted against it. Another thing that I hear often on the doors is, people are very concerned about our democracy with Donald Trump at the top of the ballot. And, one of the kind of fundamental parts of our democracy is voting. And, once again, I differ very much from Senator Seminara's voting record on voting. The people of this district voted overwhelmingly to allow early voting in the referendum that passed a year and a half ago. And yet Senator Seminara voted against implementing early voting here. And we're going to have our first try of it in a couple of months, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing how it works. And I support early voting, absolutely. And then we're also going to have a referendum on the ballot this year that allows for no excuse absentee ballot voting. And
What does that mean? I'm not quite sure what that means.
So right now, in order to get an absentee ballot, you need to have an excuse like you have an illness, you're going to be out of town, you have some sort of reason and there's a list of specific
Okay.
reasons that are acceptable. And with no excuse absentee ballots, you can just go down to town hall, apply for an absentee ballot, and get it for no reason at all. And Connecticut is one of the few states that doesn't have no excuse absentee balloting. So recent polling showed that 60% of Connecticut residents favor allowing no excuse absentee balloting. But again, Senator Seminara voted against letting the people of this district, vote on it in a referendum. So that's another district, another difference that I have with the senator. We have big differences on gun safety. I support Connecticut's common sense gun safety legislation. We have universal background checks. We have permitting and training laws. We have red flag laws. We have bans on assault weapons, safe storage laws. I support all those laws. I think they're common sense. And most gun owners that I speak to tell me that they do not find Connecticut's gun laws particularly onerous. I don't think Senator Seminara feels the same way about these laws. And in fact, last session, when there was a vote on some new gun safety legislation that banned open carry and closed some loopholes on assault weapons and ghost guns, the senator voted against the legislation.
So you have a goal of 10,000 door knockings, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
and you're well on your way. You're about halfway, I think you said.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you can achieve that goal? Number one, and number two, what gives you confidence that you will win the election after having a squeaker for the last time around? What are your thoughts on
Well, I think I'm going to get to 10,000 doors. I think right now I'm a little over 5,300, which, given when I started, puts me right on pace to get to 10,000 by November 4th, the day before the election day. As far as, why I feel good about this year, I'd say there are a number of factors. A big one is that Senator Seminara has a record this time. Last election, she was very quiet on important issues. This time, we can actually look at her voting record. We can look at her public statements. And, I don't think she's a great fit for this district. I think I'm a better fit values-wise for this district. For example, on abortion policy, the senator has said that she's proudly pro-life, but that she recognizes the fact that she represents a district that is largely pro-choice, and that she would not kind of vote in a pro-life direction because of the feelings of her constituents. But I look at that and I think, well, we've kind of heard that story before from pro-life Republicans telling us that abortion policy would be safe on their watch. We heard that from Neil Gorsuch. We heard that from Brett Kavanaugh. We heard that from Amy Coney Barrett. And then the first chance we got the Dobbs decision and the reversal of Roe versus Wade. So, I think Senator Seminara's record is going to work against her. I think that, my hard work and the hard work of my volunteers in getting kind of the message out that I'm a middle of the road, practical person who just wants to get out there and solve problems. I think that's going to be key as well. And yeah, I am. I'm feeling pretty good about being able to win this time.
I wish you good luck, and thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate it. We've had as a guest today Paul Honig, who is running for a state senate in the 8th district.
Thanks so much, Bob. It's great to be here with you.